we're going to set it to 7 rounds. We're going to set it to fast, and we're going to be drafting for the Kansas City Chiefs today. Actually, you know what? Let's set it normal. We normally go fast, right? So we're going to enter a solo draft, and this is the one I like because unlike PFF, this one is free. I really like that about it, right? I like free things, but also it's curated by Kent Lee Platt, who, if you know him on Twitter, he is Math Bomb. Math Bomb is the guy who pioneered the relative athletic score, which is used by many as the measuring stick for athleticism for players coming to the draft. So let's start this draft, right? And it's going to take a minute. My computer's kind of slow, so just be patient with me. All right, so Caleb Williams goes first, as we all expected, right? We see players going off the board quickly here. Let me just get rid of this here. Google that. Oh, so it looks like we just saw the Falcons do a trade up in the draft, so that's going to be fun. What I'm going to be using for evaluation here is my draft guide that I made, and you can see we got ourselves a trade offer right here. Pick 47 and pick 70 and a Giants fourth. Let's see. We have pick 48 and a second from Jacksonville. And we have pick 44 and a second from Las Vegas. We're going to hide that just for a second, right, to see who's still on the board here. Maybe. Let us go up. Come on. You're going the wrong way. Hate this computer. You piece of shit. Okay. Ooh, this is embarrassing. So if you can see, nothing's happening here. And long story short, my computer sucks really bad. All right. So we see that Adonai Mitchell and Ladd McConkey are both on the board, right? And we see Kingsley Suamataia just went to the Ravens. So chances are most of the tackles we want are off the board. Jordan Morgan's still on the board here. But I think if you're Kansas City and Adonai Mitchell and Ladd McConkey are still on the board, I think you have to take them at that point, right? I don't think there's a lot of debate. But this draft board, as you can see, really fell in Kansas City's favor because you have Adonai Mitchell, Ladd McConkey, Troy Franklin, right, all still available at pick 32. So they have their pick of wide receivers, right? You can get tall and fast like Adonai Mitchell. You can get tall and fairly fast like Troy Franklin. And then you can get not as tall, not as fast, but I mean, still pretty fast, right? And Ladd McConkey. And so there's a lot of these guys that should be able to play day one. Franklin's thing is he might be a little light, right? Adonai Mitchell's thing is he didn't cross the 1,000-yard mark. Ladd McConkey's thing is, I don't know, I guess because he's white. But all of them solid players. All of them would be solid players for Kansas City. But I'm going to take the top player on the board here, right? I'm not gonna get that trade offer. Instead, I'm just gonna draft Adonai Mitchell here. And so now we head forward in the draft. And I really want to see who's going to be available at pick 64, right? Of course, with the bad computer here, I'm not going to be doing any trade ups or anything like that. But you can see at wide receiver, we still got Malachi Corley, we still got Roman Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, right? Jalen Polk just went, so Jalen Polk's the better of the two Washington wide receivers. You see, we have an offer for pick 75, pick 66, and we can bump 227 up to 138. Oh, and Patrick Paul is gone. If you see there, Patrick Paul, you could just see in the corner, just went to San Francisco. So I'm going to accept this trade. What? Oh, okay. Okay. Nope. And reject that too. Now, so I guess the Cardinals traded in to get Ben Sano at the end of the freaking first round, which is just, or the second round was just odd. Cedric Van Prank Granger just went to Carolina. And so our natural next progression here would be offensive tackle, but your next step is Roger Rosengarten out of Washington. And just looking at our draft guide here, right, we can go down to the offensive tackles, and we can see Rosengarten, right, he is so they have him as number 87 here, right? That's probably closer than where Pro Football Focus has him ranked. Pro Football Focus has him ranked at 224, but the issue for Kansas City is he basically only played right tackle in college, and Kansas City's already got their right tackle. So I want to go and take a look at defense, see what's available here, right? And you can see Braylon Trice out of Washington. This is an interesting piece here because Braylon Trice, right, just moving down the draft guide here, right, he's the 5th ranked edge rusher on our draft guide, right, and pretty athletic guy, ran a 4.72, 8 sacks, but what we're really looking at is those 53 hurries. Yes, 53 hurries he caused at his in his last year at Washington. He also sits at 6'4", 274. So an interesting prospect there. Let's look over here at corner, right? Because aside from wide receiver, corner is a place that the Chiefs might spend an early pick on. Why? Because, you know, they sent L'Jarius Sneed off in that trade. They still got good corners, right? But getting a really good corner definitely would not hurt them. I think I'm going to go back over here. And it's Braylon Trice or Brandon Dorless. Two guys that I really like, right? Brandon Dorless, so, right, another fairly athletic guy. He only had 4 sacks, but he had 35 hurries as a lot of playing a lot of interior defensive linemen. And he had 6 batted passes, and that's something that the Chiefs really like. In this scenario, though, I'm going to go with Braylon Trice, right? A little bit quicker. And, you know, he's big enough to play inside, but he's played mostly outside. Not that the Chiefs need him, but I think this is a luxury pick for the Chiefs because, you know, why not? So we'll see how the rest of this board plays out, see if we can pick up a tackle later on. And remember, right, the general idea is people assume that there's the top tackles who are all going to go in the first round. And there was really not much after that. But that's not necessarily true, right? I'm not trading with Cincinnati. So that's not necessarily true because we saw Patrick Paul, he went in the second round. We saw Jordan Morgan, he went in the second round. So there were still guys available. You can see as far as, oh my God, you son of a poo stickler. You can see Devontae Walker still available, right? And Devontae Walker, well, not still available, it just went, right? But Devontae Walker, quite the prospect, considered a borderline first rounder, and just now went deep into the third round here, So let's look. We still got some of the top running backs available. We're getting into our second tier tackles here, right? Or actually our third tier tackles, right? So we got Matt Goncalves out of Pittsburgh, and then Javon Foster, who is a decent tackle at Missouri, and then Christian Jones. Christian Jones, I believe, should be higher than Javon Foster on this list. I personally have him a little higher, right? But if we can go in and look at Christian Jones here, if I could find him on my list, I tell you what, the writing is so small here, I kind of have to. Where is he? Sorry. Very unorganized, as you can see. Okay, so Christian Jones, primarily a right tackle, but has played left tackle, right? That's something that the Chiefs really value, where Javon Foster has played some more left tackle. And so only allowed one sack. Javon Foster pretty much only a left tackle, not quite as athletic. 12 hurries he allowed as opposed to Jones, right? Goodness gracious. Jones with 8 hurries. But Foster allowed 0 hits, right? Christian Jones allowed 2 hits. I'm going to go with Javon Foster in the scenario. Maybe we'll be able to pick up Christian Jones as a complement to that later on in the draft. But right now, I'm going to go with Javon Foster. He's a Missouri guy. We know the Chiefs like Missouri guys, even though they typically like to get their offensive linemen out of Oklahoma and Tennessee. In the case of Wanya Morris, Orlando Brown, Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma, and then Wanya Morris, Jerome Carvin, and Trey Smith from Tennessee. So, they do like SEC guys too, if you think about it. Wanya Morris used to be an SEC guy, right? Jerome Carvin, Trey Smith, those all used to be SEC guys. Oklahoma's moving to the SEC, right? Texas is moving to the SEC, but also you got Kentucky, right? Darian Kennard, and then you got Florida, Jawan Taylor, right? And then you have Auburn for Prince Tega Winoga. And see, we are at 131 here, right? We're still way above where we should be picking these tackles at, according to the board here. But, I mean, what are you going to do, right? You need offensive linemen if you're Kansas City. You need somebody to compete at that tackle position, and you probably need a tackle to come in and play some guard as a backup, right? And then eventually come in and play some tackle for you. So you can see our top 3 wide receivers left on the board here: Jacob Cohen, Javon Baker, and Luke McCaffrey. It's probably a little early for either of these guys, but I always get down to Javon Baker and Luke McCaffrey, right? Luke McCaffrey showed off some fluid route running at the combine, right? Javon Baker, of course, great wide receiver for UCF, has gotten a lot of hype in the pre-draft process. But if you look at Javon Baker, his stats are a little better, right? And UCF, Power 5 school, right? Rice, not so much. But you can see Javon Baker here ranked as number 119 on my list. Luke McCaffrey ranked as 179. Luke McCaffrey, right, coming in just under 1,000 yards with Rice and 13 touchdowns, right? So great numbers he's putting up. Javon Baker with UCF, right? Running about, similar 40 times here. Javon Baker, 4.54, but a few more yards. And then Luke McCaffrey, a bit faster, 40 with a 4.46, and a few more touchdowns, right? And so what we're really going to have to look at is if you look at Javon Baker's yards per catch, 21.9 yards per catch. Now, is that sustainable in the NFL? No, but we like that a little better than Luke McCaffrey's 14 yards per catch. Of course, Luke McCaffrey had more touchdowns, but in this particular instance, I'm going with Javon Baker. I think Javon Baker is a super high floor pick at wide receiver. Yes, I would have liked the speed of Luke McCaffrey, but remember, we did get I'm going to accept that, move down 7 spots and pick up an extra pick. We did get a wide receiver early on, so just picked up our second one here. And let's see. We could give up a 7th now to get 177. No, thank you. I want to kind of, there's no real need to load up with a ton of guys in this draft if you don't have to. And that's surprising to me, right? Round 5 and Jalen Wright just now went. Jalen Wright, you know, running back number 2 on some people's boards with that just stellar 40 time that he put up, right? So let's look here, right? Christian Jones still on the board. We got a chance to get guys in to come in and compete, right, for Kansas City on the offensive line. I'm doing it, not giving it a second thought. Right, moving towards Kansas City's next pick here, which 159 is our next pick, and here we are, right? So we've gone offense with our last couple of picks. If you're having a hard time keeping up here, don't worry, right? We got a nice little recap here. Adonai Mitchell in the first round, Braylon Trice, the edge rusher in the second round. That's a luxury pick, remember, right? But in the third round, actually, because we traded back out of the second round. But he's a guy who can play multiple positions. Javon Foster, Christian Jones, I believe they can play multiple positions if they don't win that starting job against Wanya Morris, because that's always been the problem, right? If you bring in a guy via the draft and you spend like a second round pick on a guy and take a bit of a reach, is he going to come in and play immediately better than a guy like Wanya Morris? We don't know. Wanya Morris played all right last year. And so I think you get these 2 tackles, right? You get Javon Foster and Christian Jones. You see who's going to come in and give you the best reps at left tackle, right? And you give them both a chance to compete. Whoever does the best at left tackle, if they're able to unseat Wanya Morris, great. You make them the starting left tackle, right? If they're not able to unseat Wanya Morris, you put him back behind Wanya, let Wanya start, right? And you got a solid backup. And then you move the other one to guard someplace, right? Because right now our only backup guard is Lucas Niang if he slides over, or Mike Caliendo. So you really need some depth there. And you kind of need some depth at center too, but we can address that later on with UDFAs and things like that. And then, of course, we got Javon Baker to elevate the floor of the receiving room a little bit. So you can see there's some good tight ends still available. Dallin Holker out of Colorado State. He's a guy I really like, right? A little bit older. He's a guy I really like. I think we'll be able to get him a little bit later in the draft. We're still at 159. He's not predicted to go until around 196. So let's go on the other side, and we're going to look and see what's available for our defensive backs, right? So once again, we're at pick 159. So Daquan Hardy out of Penn State, Jarvis Brownlee, Tarheeb Steele, right? Nehemiah Pritchett. All right. So these are some good corners still available, right? But here's what I'm looking at. Who's below them, right? Because these guys are good, but none of them really jump off the page to me. There's some guys that I like in later rounds that make me comfortable passing on some of these guys, right? And so there's even a surprise pick at corner that I'm going to grab if he's still there, right? We got Katan Oladapo. We got Kenny Logan, local kid out of Kansas, right? So, I mean, there's a few guys here. I'm going to go ahead and take Kenny Logan out of Kansas, I think, right? Let's see. I think Trey. Ooh, do I want Kenny Logan or Trey Taylor? It would be a reach for Trey Taylor, according to this, but I like Trey Taylor. He's a guy that always has a nose for the ball, always looking for the ball. I think I'm going to take Trey Taylor at safety here, right? And now we wait for our next pick, 173, right? You see Cardinals grabbing a second tight end, but look at that. I want you guys to see this. It's kind of stuck there for a second, so that's perfect because Jared Wiley out of TCU, one of the more athletic prospects in this entire draft at tight end. And so huge deal for the Buffalo Bills to get that level of player after they just got Dalton Kincaid last year, right? So loading up at that tight end position, if you're Buffalo, to get a guy like that this late in the draft, absolute win, right? So stuck a little bit here. It's fine. Oh, somehow we accidentally paused. Resume. We're deep into round 5 here, right? We got about 6 picks until Kansas City. And we have an offer, right? So I'm going to take this offer. I didn't take the last one, right? Because I didn't want to trade picks in other drafts for picks in this draft. But here we hop down 4 spots, let Minnesota get a guy that they want, right? It's an NFC team, so I'm not as worried about trading with them, right? But it's really important to me that I'm picking up another late round pick in the 7th round to get a jump on my priority undrafted free agents here. So they grabbed Javion Cohen out of Miami, right? We jump back those 4 spots, and we are on the board. Okay? We're on the clock. So we're getting into round 6. Right? Oh, you know what? There is something Kansas City could use. We could use a guard too, but running back, right? And the question in my mind here is, should I be looking for a guy like Braylon Allen, somebody huge, right? A big bruising running back? Should I be looking for a well-rounded guy like Jonathan Brooks? Or should I be looking for a change of pace guy like Dylan Laube or this guy right here, Tyrone Tracy? So anytime I get to pick 177 and Tyrone Tracy's there, I always feel inclined to take him. Why? He's a former wide receiver, right? And put up decent numbers at wide receiver. So if you get him, not only are you bolstering your running back depth with a change of pace receiving back, very similar to Jerick McKinnon, right? But you're also, and you could teach him to pass block, hopefully. But you're also bolstering your wide receiver depth in the chance that you would ever need it, right? Having a guy with that versatility, I assume, is something that the Chiefs would be very interested in. So we're going to go with Tyrone Tracy here. And this is all super duper fun because it's on my super crappy computer. Didn't think you were going to have an hour-long mock draft. Well, ooh, that was a good pick. Oh, the Saints picking Dallin Holker, my guy. If you saw just a few picks ago, the Falcons picked up their Grady Jarrett replacement with Hamid Kamara going away. Christian Boyd out of University of Northern Iowa. And then, man, the NFC South making some good picks, right? Miles Cole for the Saints, Tanner McLaughlin, tight end for the Falcons, right? You can see nobody wants to trade up with us at this point. We're getting a little late in the game here, right? Let's look at the wide receivers real quick. You got Cornelius Johnson. Cornelius Johnson is an intriguing option for me because he's a big guy, right? Didn't produce a lot at Michigan, but he's big and he's fast, right? Joshua Cephas, he's a guy that's not too big and not too fast, but he really did produce at UTSA, multiple 150-plus yard games, right? and then a 130-yard game on top of that against some top quality opponents. Houston, who's about to be in the Big 12, right? He put up numbers on them. But you can see we only have 2 picks left, and I just want to recap real quick what picks we've made so far, right? Adonai Mitchell in the first round, Braylon Trice at the beginning of the 3rd round, Javon Foster, Christian Jones at the offensive tackle, and hopefully backup guard positions. Javon Baker, once again, to elevate the floor of that wide receiver room. Trey Taylor to be a backup safety. And then finally, Tyrone Tracy Jr. To be the running back out of Purdue, but a backup wide receiver as well, right? So we're going to go over the defensive side. We spent a lot of picks on offense. I wouldn't mind spending another pick on offense, but I don't think that's what I'm going to do right now. So I have guys that I like at the end of this draft, and I hope that Kansas City grabs them because they're 2 guys that are fairly athletic and really productive, right? The knock on one guy is, he gets a little stiff and his ball instincts aren't that good sometimes, and that's Nathaniel Watson. Nathaniel Watson out of Mississippi State. I just want to run through some of the stats here, right? So if we can get down to him, right? He's ranked towards the bottom of linebackers for Pro Football Focus, but I don't think he should, right? That's just kind of a slight to me that he's ranked like that, right? So not overly athletic, running a 4.63, 6.66 out of 10 on the RAS chart, but okay, 35 tackles, 10 sacks, an interception, 2 forced fumbles, and 13 tackles for loss, right? So he's a guy that produces a lot, He's a little bit smaller at 6'2", 240. Well, no, 6'2", 245. That's good size for a linebacker, sorry. And so he's a guy that produces. I don't know why he's not getting more looks in this draft. I don't know why he's not getting more love in this draft. But, by all accounts, he's a decent cover linebacker. And so even though, right, it seems like a reach to take him when it's 203, he's supposed to go at 261, right? He's actually supposed to be in the undrafted range. I'm going to take him because if I'm Kansas City, I want him on my team. And then we have another guy that I feel similarly about at the corner position. And we're almost to our pick if my computer will keep going. Nathan Thomas out of Louisiana. He's one of those project tackles. Allowed quite a few sacks at Louisiana, but he's a big guy. Cornelius Johnson, there he goes. He goes to the Jaguars, right? As if the Jaguars needed more size and speed in their wide receiver core. They got it. So, Gabe Murphy out of UCLA. Gabe Murphy and Grayson Murphy, 2 twins out of UCLA, both very effective pass rushers, one a little more athletic than the other. But seeing the Eagles get a guy like that, like the pass rushing depth in this draft is better than I've seen in a while, right? The guys you're going to get on day 3 are still guys who can come in, compete for spots, and absolutely make a name for themselves early, right? So we're done with linebacker. I want to check out the corner depth, right? And you see some guys that you may or may not know, right? One of the more notable names on here is Marcellus Dial. Marcellus Dial, right? He's not bad. So in 2020, he didn't really do so great in 2023, but in 2022, he had 12 passes defense, he had 3 interceptions, 33 tackles, right? Decently athletic guy running a 4.46, but he is not who I'm looking for. Nope. Let's scoot on down the line here a little bit. Hello. Okay, I'm coming. Is she asleep? Oh. Okay. All right, and we're back. So, we were talking about corners, and if you see right here, coolest name in the draft, Quantez Stiggers, right? And dude probably has one of the cooler stories in the draft too, because you see here it says Toronto, the CFL, right? The dude was playing for the Toronto Argonauts, who were an absolute powerhouse last year, and you can't get full stats out of the CFL, but he played in basically the best spring league there is. Put up monster numbers out of his pro day, right? 4.31, 9.35. So this guy's already been playing professional ball, and he had 5 interceptions in their season. So this is the guy who I'm going to round out Kansas City's draft with, right? I think if you're looking for a guy that can be that next L'Jarius Sneed in the late rounds, there's nobody better than him. He's experienced, right? 6 foot, 197, so decent size, excellent athleticism, and he's already shown that he can play at a higher level in college. So, I mean, I don't know what the questions on the guy are, except maybe his age, right? And maybe like playing a full bit of CFL, right? Because even if he played full CFL season, guess what? That means his season was over in October, right? So he's done, right? He's been done longer than the college athlete, so he's had some time to rest. So while it's loading up our draft here, because we're at the end of our draft, right? Let's just flip over to our picks here. Oh, there we go. So you guys can see here, we ended up with Adonai Mitchell and Javon Baker at wide receiver, Tyrone Tracy as that running back wide receiver combo, very much in the type of Antonio Gibson, even though he's not the same size or anything like that as Antonio Gibson, right? Oh no, I don't want the full results. Go away. So, got the Chiefs a playmaking linebacker late in the late rounds, right? And we got them an edge rusher that can also play defensive tackle, right? If you were looking for a Darius Robinson and you missed out on Darius Robinson, Braylon Trice is a guy you like. We got them 2 offensive tackles, one that could probably be the backup guard if they needed to, and we got them a safety, right? Trey Taylor might not be the highest ceiling safety in the draft, but he's a guy who is going to go and have a solid role on a team in the NFL. And then finally, we ended it with the CFL corner that's trying to make his way to the NFL, and I think he's going to do an excellent job. Hope you guys enjoyed that. This has been my mock draft, my Tuesday night mock draft live on my shitty computer. So thank you guys for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, NFL Fan Blitz. Be sure to visit our website, Fan Blitz Network, and catch all of our live shows and this draft on stream.com, along with a host of other NFL content, CFL content, and content from the UFL. Thank you guys. I've been Matt Sparks.